Hi, my name is Cece, and on behalf of Scrapbook Centrale, welcome to another edition of Tutorial Tuesday. Today we're going to be using a new vintage stamp by KaiserCraft. This one is called Cherish. We'll also be doing some white embossing as well as coloring our stamped image with distress inks. I would like to apologize for my raspy voice. I do have a cold, so I will do the best that I can to make my instructions as clear as possible, but I do apologize. Let me show you what you're going to need for this project. The stamp we'll be using today is the Vintage Cherish by KaiserCraft. The ink pads I'll be using today are the following: the Archival Ink in Jet Black by Ranger, as well as 3 distress inks. This one is the embossing ink, as well as the Peacock Feathers, which is part of the Spring 2012 collection, and Spiced Marmalade. We're going to need our craft sheet today because we're going to be inking and heat embossing. We'll need our heat tool, some white embossing powder. I just happen to keep mine in a plastic container like that. A pair of scissors, some foam adhesive, as well as your favorite adhesive, and a simple white button. The pattern papers we're using today are by My Mind's Eyes from the Follow Your Heart collection, Be Amazing. And these are the 3 patterns we're going to be using: ephemera paper, blue doily paper, and geostar paper. And in fact, the blue doily paper will use the reverse of it, which is this beautiful pattern. Here are the dimensions and cardstock needed for this project. We have our card base out of craft cardstock measuring 4 1/4 by 11, folded in half at the 5.5 inch mark. This piece is from the blue doily paper by My Mind's Eye, and it measures 3 3/4 by 5 inches. This one is from the ephemera paper, and it measures 3 by 4. As well as the geostar paper that measures 1.5 by 3, and another piece of craft cardstock measuring 3 by 4. We're also going to need 9 inches of a yellow ribbon. This is a 5/8 of an inch ribbon, as well as a linen thread or baker's twine. This is a 6-inch piece. You'll also need an extra piece of yellow ribbon. This one measures about 2 inches. You'll need glossy accents, liquid pearls in buttercup, as well as glue dots. We're going to stamp the same image twice on different papers, and I have here my 2 pieces of pattern paper, which I'm going to adhere together. So this little piece here gets to be glued onto the bottom of the craft designer paper, like this. And we're going to stamp our stamp right over that on both pattern paper. And for this, I'm using my archival ink. And we'll try and center that on the pattern paper, like so. And I'm not too concerned about this part not showing well, because we're going to be covering this up with our second stamping. Our second part of the stamping is to use the distress embossing ink. And I'm going to cover the same stamp. And now I'm going to add my white embossing powder over that image. And heat set that. Okay, so now we've got our design that's fully embossed, and I'm going to bring back here my spiced marmalade and peacock feathers, as well as my inking tools. And I'm going to start with my lightest color, which is spiced marmalade, and I'm just going to dab a little bit of that orangey color right in the center here over my butterfly. And don't forget that we're only going to be using the butterfly part as well as the bingo card. So we don't have to go crazy with the inking. It's just to give or to add a little bit more color to our focal image. And now I'm going to go with the peacock feather and go wherever go all over my bingo card and darken that area or color that area. And I might go over the design with just a dry rag and remove some of that color over the white embossing. So now that we've got our main image colored, we're going to cut around that bingo card and the butterfly. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quickly. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut that wing. Let me zoom in. Okay. I'm going to cut that wing here right up to the middle part here because I want to bring up that wing just a little bit like that, just to add more contrast, more dimension. And I'm just going to finish cutting this up like this. And this will get popped with foam adhesive, but before I do that, I just want to add a little contour with the peacock feather ink and my inking tool and just go very lightly around the edges. Now another good reason why I like to use the craft sheet is that it makes it easier to ink around a piece of paper or cardstock because it just glides. When you're using a regular paper or a scrap piece of paper, the foam catches on the paper and it doesn't make for a nice smooth inking. So I just love that craft sheet for that reason as well. Pop that up. I'll make sure not to put any foam adhesive underneath the butterfly because it will be bent a little, so I don't want to get in the way of that movement. So I'm just going to lay that over the bingo card that's on my image, like so, and bend that wing just a little bit so it looks like that. Alright, so we've got all our elements to put together our card. I'm going to glue this piece down with my adhesive right onto my card base that I just folded in half. I want to add that ribbon around my card base, but before I do that I just want to make sure that it hits the perfect spot for me. So I'm just going to mark up that little space here, and I'll be taking my adhesive. I'm just going to run a bit of that glue over here, and I'm going to line up with my little tick mark here like this. So now it makes it easier for me to just wrap this around like so. This cut in the middle doesn't really matter because we're going to put our embellishments right over that. What I want to do is I want to add a small, like a 2-inch piece of that yellow ribbon and just glue it here right over this. And then my button is going to go here. Take a glue dot, just add one here and close it shut. So I have my loop here, like this. And I'm going to actually glue it against this because this is going to get popped. So I'm going to glue this against my my focal piece. And so I'm going to lay this down again to where I want it and lay this down and just press, and then this will be glued onto that piece. So now I can add my foam adhesives. Don't forget to put a piece right underneath that ribbon or over the ribbon because on the other side this is where we're going to put our button and you need that added support. I'm just going to lay that down here like this. Where I glue my button down, I'm going to thread that with my linen thread. I wish I had real linen thread. This is just a piece of rope that I found in my stash, but I know that we have linen thread at the store and it's usually my go-to thread when I make projects at home, so I just ran out of it. So I'm just going to tie a little knot and I guess a double knot like that. I don't want to make a bow. Cut this over here just so I have my two pieces hanging like that. And again, I'm going to use my glue dots to glue that button. Like this. Alright, so I thought it was finished, but I decided that my focal image needed a touch of that yellow. So I went ahead and grabbed my Buttercup liquid pearls, and I'm going to add 3 dots in the middle of my butterfly. I love that stuff. Like this. And when they dry, they just make the most perfect pearls. And I'm going to add another one here, right in the center of. So to make sure that the knot doesn't come undone, I'm just going to dab a tiny bit of my clogged up glossy accents, which I will unclog with a paper piercer. I haven't found the recipe to have a glossy accents bottle that doesn't clog up, but it doesn't take much. I just grab my paper piercer and just put a little dab there. And obviously glossy accents dries clear, you won't see it. Well, there's my finished vintagey looking card. I love the bright colors that I used, which were dictated by the actual background paper. Unfortunately, I just noticed now that I don't see too much of that beautiful teal. So I wish I had probably inverted the paper so that I had more teal showing, but it's all good. And I am absolutely in love with all the vintage stamps by KaiserCraft. This one is the Cherish one that we've used. There's the one with the bike, which is love. The old record player, Imagine, Believe, with the bird cage and the clock. So pretty, so intricate. Journey. This one is Treasure, with the old suitcase and the crown. Very beautiful. I just can't get enough of these liquid pearls. Look how shiny they are and how round they are. I hope you can see this on this one here. I do apologize again for my raspy voice. I hope I'll be better next week. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.